What's going on? Welcome back to another episode of Off the Schneid. We're gonna jump kind of right into this. Want to talk about something I was thinking about yesterday, and then kind of snowballed into today. Did some digging, and I just don't think it makes a lot of sense. So let's jump into it. Let's talk about it. Let's explore how I just don't think there's any way it makes sense for anybody. Who Hames enjoyed the show earlier today. If you guys haven't gone sub to Who Hames, go check out the show. Stephen Hines, good to see you. Appreciate that. So let's dig into it. I want to talk about, it's no secret that I'm an Ashton Genty fader. It's not like I don't like Ashton Genty as a player. I absolutely do like Ashton Genty as a player 100%. It's just I don't agree with the price. It makes no sense. So let's talk about where he's likely going to go, right? We did the visits show two episodes ago. Very, very popular show on the channel. My most popular video actually that I've had on this channel, most popular live stream. So digging into that, I'm trying to find ways that Ashton Genty does not go to the Raiders, right? So, and look at the betting lines, like that's his most likely landing spot. We kind of all know that, right? Like that's kind of where everybody's projecting. So let's talk about consensus, right? That's kind of what I led into on this show is no, not this, but Boogie, what's happening? GM, Omega King. So, that's not what we're talking about. Like, let's lean into the consensus here. You guys know how much I hate consensus and how I'm typically against it most times when it just doesn't make sense to me. I'm not doing it just to do it. I do it when it doesn't make sense. And this is one of those cases, but let's lean into it, right? So what's the consensus? That the Las Vegas Raiders draft Ashton Genty. That's the consensus thought. That's actually what I think. So I'm falling in line with it, right? Like it just makes the most sense. So if that's the case, then what we really have to do, as drafters realistically and looking at values and player valuations, if that's the case, then let's look at the standings or the rankings, right? Let's dig into the rankings on how that would look. So if they're both in the top 15, so hence the title of the episode, they're both a top 15 pick, right? And who are we talking about? Number one, it's obviously Ashton Genty. He's now a first round pick, the 12-5. Okay, it is what it is. I can be okay with that or not, whatever. That's not the point. The real point is, how is Brock Bowers 15.8, right? Another top 15 pick. If they're both on the Raiders, if Ashton Genty goes to the Raiders, which again, that's consensus. That's what I think. That's what everyone thinks. How in the world is it possible for Ashton Genty to pay off top 5 running back and Brock Bowers to pay off let's just call it top 3? He's going as tight end 1 by quite a large margin, right? Considering where's McBride going, almost double later, right? So how is it possible that both ADPs can pay off? The answer is they can't. Realistically, there's really no way that it's possible that they can both pay off at ADP. But let's dig into why and how. Okay, so looking, I went back for the last 10 years. I went back the last 10 years of fantasy football scores. I didn't even go overall points. I went points per game. The highest points per game scorers of each of tight end and running back, right? Has it ever happened where two players, a running back and a tight end from the same team, have finished top 5 for running back and top 3, which is being generous, for tight end, right? How many times has it happened? When has it happened? Let's dig into it. I went back 10 years. It happened 3 times. Once was 2023. George Kittle was the tight end 5, which again is being very generous. Tight end 5, which is what? Pick 80s to this year. Who knows what it would have been, into 2023. Maybe we can go back, but exceptionally later. But let's be generous and say, okay, it's top 5. So Kittle was 5th and Christian McCaffrey was RB1. Okay. One time. And that's not even actually what we're looking at. That's actually doesn't even fall in line with what we're hoping for here. Kittle, 2022, the year before, it happened again. Kittle was tight end 2, so that falls in line. And Christian McCaffrey was running back 2, but he only played 10 games with the 49ers. It was the trade year where he came from Carolina, but he was in line. It still probably would have happened, if he had played the full year for sure. So basically one time right there, 2022, Kittle was number 2 tight end. Christian McCaffrey was number 2 tight end. The third time was in 2017 with the Kansas City Chiefs, where it was Kareem Hunt was RB5 as a rookie, and Travis Kelce was tight end 2, right? So 3 times, and 2 times, it's very, very generous that we're giving these numbers. So that's points per game, right? What were those points per game for the tight ends? Roughly 13, 14 points per game, right? So it just doesn't add up where like the points per game is let's just look at it this way, with the players that are going around Brock Bowers, right? Let's go Derrick Henry, Drake London, AJ Brown. What is their points per game roughly? Probably about, we'll call it should be 17 to 18. So you're getting 4 or 5 more points out of a different position at that point in the draft. So people are going to people probably already thought coming into this was more Ashton Genty hate. But it's actually more a Brock Bowers situation where I just don't think it makes any sense for Brock Bowers. Like, I still don't think it is. And I'm kind of, this is actually a pro Ashton Genty take. This is actually saying that Ashton Genty is probably much, 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 much more likely to pay off that ADP than Brock Bowers is. So I'm pushing Brock Bowers even further down now. And I might, I've already kind of moved Genty up to 18. I would pick him at 20 for sure. It hasn't happened. He's obviously not fallen to pick 20, and he's even less likely now that he's technically a first round pick. But I might have to move him up even further and move Brock Bowers a bunch down, and kind of at ADP, he's kind of out for me. Like, Trey McBride versus Brock Bowers is really the conversation that we should be having. So I just really don't think that there's any possible way for Brock Bowers specifically, but there's no possible way really in my head that both can pay off their ADP. The 49ers twice is both Kyle Shanahan, right? And then the Chiefs once with Andy Reid. We have Chip Kelly with the Raiders, who's on his 3rd NFL team. His I don't even know how many college teams. Ohio State, UCLA, the 49ers, the Eagles, Oregon. I don't know how many teams has Chip Kelly been the head coach or the offensive coordinator or something for, right? So we're just going to say that Chip Kelly is right there with Kyle Shanahan and Andy Reid. I mean, it's certainly not for me, right? Even when he was head coach in the NFL, it was an absolute train wreck in San Francisco. That was an absolute train wreck, right? Before that, with the Eagles, he inherited an Andy Reid team, right? That was 8-8 and then 4-12 or something like that, I believe, with Andy Reid. Then he bounced it back. I mean, Andy Reid and I can't remember if it was who the GM was at the time for the Eagles, but he inherited that team and then proceeded to essentially torpedo it. He had 2 good seasons at 10-6, okay seasons at 10-6, and then it just went downhill from there. So, I mean, I'm not ready. I'm not going to put Chip Kelly up there with, Kyle Shanahan and Andy Reid. I guess you can make an argument that the quarterbacks are exceptionally similar. even with the 2017, I think that would have been Alex Smith. I probably should have looked at the quarterbacks. 2023 49ers would have been probably Jimmy Garoppolo, and then Jimmy Garoppolo in 2022 for sure. I think it was probably Alex Smith with the Chiefs in 2017. So I guess you could say that Geno's a wash as far as that's concerned. I'm okay with that. But looking at the head coaches, the offensive minds that are running those teams versus Chip Kelly, I just really think it's impossible for both Bowers and Genty to pay off their ADP. So the thesis that I'm, presenting essentially right now to everybody is you have to pick one or the other. That's kind of the way I'm looking at it. And if it were me, I'd be picking Ashton Genty. So again, I think everybody was probably expecting me to come and shit on Ashton Genty some more, but I'm actually starting to soften a little bit and push Brock Bowers down because it just doesn't make sense. There's just no way that they can both pay off their ADP, and who's more likely to pay off their ADP? For me, it has to be Ashton Genty. Has to be. So that's kind of what I've been thinking about the last few days as far as, where landing spots are projected to go. So yeah, I think if you're on Bowers and or Genty, you have to pick one or the other. You kind of have to fade one. You really do. And to me, it's easily Brock Bowers. Easily. Not even a conversation. It's easily you have to fade Brock Bowers, which I've been doing. And I would suggest the price just makes 0 sense personally, especially with 20 rounds where you can get 3 tight ends quite easily. The average the average points per game for a tight end is I said 8 the other day. I think it's more like 6 actually, because I went through the years and looked at points per game for tight ends, and it was topping out at 14, 13, 14. And the top 5 were going all the way down to 8 was top 5, basically 8 points. So you might get 6 as an average, and you're still going to average out your points, right? So again, if we look at Brock Bowers getting 14 points per game, let's even be generous and call it 15 points per game. The players around him are scoring 18, 20, potentially more points per game. So it just doesn't add up. Again, for me, it's Ashton Genty actually, if they're both Raiders, which again, consensus says, and so do I, says that Ashton Genty is probably going to get drafted by the Raiders. So that's my piece. Again, I think people thought that I was going to come in and just shit on Ashton Genty some more. But I really like Ashton Genty as a player. I really, really do. The price just doesn't make sense. And it still doesn't. It really still doesn't. This isn't me saying I'm going to start picking Ashton Genty at ADP, because I'm not going to do that either. But I'm definitely not picking Brock Bowers personally. But let's take a look at the chat. Let's see if anyone agrees here. I think the floor is high enough, even if they don't pay off ADP. The playoff spike weeks are still there. Yeah, maybe. I mean, you have to advance too. And if you're sinking that first round draft capital, maybe not first round. Some people certainly are. In the stream we did last night, right? Brock Bowers went 2nd overall. Obviously, that's not that's ridiculous. But even, at the back end of the first, again, with the people going around him, that theory remains the same, but the floor is higher for that position and the ceiling is higher for that position for running backs, wide receivers, quarterbacks. Obviously, shouldn't be going quarterback in the first round either, but your running backs and wide receivers floor is higher and the ceiling is higher. So again, let's average out the points, right? Let's just say you take Ashton Genty at 12 instead of Brock Bowers at 12. Right there, that's 4 to 5 points difference in average points per game, right? Then you add, let's say you go Brock Bowers in the first, and then I don't know, Worthy, right? That's another 14 points per game, something like that, right? So you're averaging about 28 versus Ashton Genty, who's about 18, with basically 3 tight ends that are going to probably spike at about 8 points per game. So you're getting, I mean, it's a wash realistically. So that's what I'm saying is like, why would you take a higher floor for a lower ceiling when, like, it just doesn't make sense? Like, what's Brock Bowers' absolute ceiling? Probably 30 points, which is fine. But how often is he going to hit that? What's Derrick Henry's ceiling? Probably about 30 points, but he's more likely to hit that multiple times, which he does, and he has throughout the season, right? So for me, it's still just give me Brock Bowers, or sorry, it's give me Derrick Henry over Brock Bowers, and then give me those 3 tight ends that can ping pong off each other for that average 8 points spike up to, yeah, the ceiling is a lot lower, no question. It's, call it 15 to 20 points is the ceiling of a lot of these other lower tight ends. Like even a Evan Ingram or something like that, 15 to 20 points is the ceiling there, right? But give me that with 2 other options that can ping pong off each other, where I have the higher floor and the higher ceiling with my first round pick. That's how I'm seeing it and trying to kind of explain it. Boogie, appreciate that. Yeah, I think it's sound like, but Genty being drafted high, like MHJ kind of vibes. I agree. Like, I was 0% Marvin Harrison Jr. for similar reasons for why I'm 0% Ashton Genty this year. You provoke thought and perspective beyond first thought. Good stuff. Appreciate that. Candyman, back in the streaming streets. I see. Are you live tonight? If you are, put the stream in the chat there. Chris the Candyman's going live back in the streets, the streaming streets. Is this why Bijan finished RB1 and Pitts is garbage? Yeah, pretty much. Like, not really. Like, Pitts is Kyle Pitts' ADP makes more sense for Bijan's ADP, right? Like, that's where it makes sense. So, like, who else is a top? Like Gibbs, Laporta, right? Where's Laporta? That makes sense. 65. So if Bowers was down near the 30s, like if he was closer to McBride, even in the like low 20s, I could stomach that, a little easier. But I just don't see it being possible to pay off. So if I have to pick one, which I think everybody does have to pick, you have to pick one. And for me, it's going to be Ashton Genty. So it's just about the price. Like, it's nothing to do with who's a good player or not. It's all about price. That's what this game is all about. It's cost analysis, essentially, right? Like, that's what best ball is. Like, can I get true value out of this cost, X cost, whatever it is, right? And you do that for every round, for every draft position. And as long as it makes sense and you can justify the cost for the payoff, right? Then it works. Then it makes sense. Tough to start Genty Bowers. I think so. Like, how can you justify that? Especially, like, you can get away with that in BBM season, right? When we know the schedule and we know the matchups, then you could actually, it makes more sense to start Genty Bowers and then bring back whatever, or stack the other side, whatever you want to do. When we know the schedule, then you could do something like Genty Bowers and then, work it that way, where that actually makes sense. And that the comment earlier by Omega King, then that makes sense. This works. This analysis does make sense. And this does work if we know the schedule and we know how we can match things up with the Genty Bowers start. So I just don't think it makes any sense in the big board, mostly Brock Bowers. This is a Brock Bowers hate take. This is not a Genty hate. It's all about Brock Bowers for me. So there you go. Boogie seems to like, appreciate that. Makes tons of sense. I like Genty and Bowers, but together not so much. This puts why them together feel so bad. Yeah. I don't think it makes any sense. I really don't. Emo Cowboy, what's happening? Good to see you as always. But if Genty ends up in Chicago, then you can both hit. Yeah, absolutely. It's just like, again, the thought was because of consensus, is what I wanted to kind of go down this road. And personally, I don't really see too many ways that the Raiders don't take Genty. I really, really am having a hard time finding outs where Genty's not a Raider. I'm really having a hard time with that. Points per game from last year, not predicted for this year. Yeah, but go back 10 years. That's what I did when I did this kind of analysis. I went back 10 years. Like even Kelsey in his prime was 14, 15 points, per game, tops. So, yeah. So you soften your stance on Genty because you decided he's going to Vegas. Kind of, yeah. Like if he goes to Vegas, which again, that's what everybody thinks, and including me. Like I've said it multiple times. I think he probably does go to the Raiders, and it's a fantastic landing spot, obviously, right? So if that's the case, then it has to be Genty over Bowers. That's the biggest thing. Like in a vacuum right now, if I have to draft one, Bowers or Genty, it's 1,000,000% Genty, and it's not even close. So that's kind of the take on that. Click this link, go follow, go sub and follow Fantasy Football Garage. It's good stuff. It's a good time. It's a good stream. Back in the streets. Good to see you. If you're afraid to be wrong, you'll never be right. 100%. I'm not afraid to have 0% Genty or, Bowers. I have a couple percent Bowers, but yeah, I'm putting these kids down and going live a little later. Nice. If I'm still awake, I know you go live a little later, but if I'm still awake, I'll jump in there and check it out. You have to be fluid with your stances, in my opinion. Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, Fast Football Garage was streaming last year, I believe, and then things get busy, stuff like that. But let's jump into a draft and kind of chat more about it. We're going to jump into a big board. I got 28 left, so definitely got a few. Waiting on 5. Jump in if you want to draft. So yeah, it just doesn't make sense to me. Like the Bowers ADP is going to have an exceptionally hard time paying off, in my opinion. Especially, let's look at it this way: if Genty is there, how much more is going to go into the running game, right? Like, people like to shit on the quarterback play of the Raiders last year, but there was 2 1,000-yard receivers on that team. That doesn't happen very often. It should happen a lot more with there being 17 games now, right? But it does not happen very often where 2 receivers on the same team are 1,000-yard receivers. That happened with the Raiders last year. Do you think that was because they wanted to throw the ball so much? Obviously, no, it was not, right? So what's the terminal amount of yards that the Raiders can possibly put up? Probably I don't know, 40 something, 40, maybe 50, 5,100 yards, something like that, right? And you have to put that out through the entire team, the entire squad, right? So let's take a look at, let's check who's in the draft with us here. We got Kelly in the 9 spot, Champ X3 in the 2 spot, King of QC in the 1 spot. I'm not sure if the 6 spot is in the draft. If you're in the draft and in the chat, let me know if you want your team reviewed. But let's take a look at, let's do it over here. Let's do it here. I don't usually ever go on Firefox except for on Underdog. So let's look at the Raiders and the stats for this team. So 4,100 passing yards, 1,300 rushing yards, right? Obviously, so what is that? 5,400 yards. Okay. That's pretty decent. I don't expect this number to go up at all. Their passing yards with Geno, 4,100. Maybe it could, but nothing crazy. But how can it if we know that the rushing yards are going to go up? If Ashton Genty goes there, then the rushing yards are going to go up. Some of the offense is going to migrate to the ground, right? Their highest rusher was 420 yards and they had 1,300 rushing yards, right? So maybe that stays the same. Obviously this will be consolidated into one, and some of the passing game has to migrate to the rushing game. So they're definitely not going to have two, 1,000-yard receivers, that's for sure. But I think if Ashton Genty goes there, we can agree that there's probably going to be 1,000-yard rusher, right? So that's my piece. It just doesn't add up. And it's a Brock Bowers thing. It's actually not an Ashton Genty thing. So how do you like that? I'm actually softening a little bit on my Genty hate, as people think it is. It's definitely not hate. It's the price doesn't add up. I'm going to take Genty here. No, I'm just kidding. There's no way I'm taking Genty. I'm going to take Amon-Ra. I think he just continues to be habitually disrespected in this range, and it doesn't make any sense in the world to me. So I'm going to keep taking him. I'm at over 15% now. If I can get him at 10th overall, I'm going to keep taking him. Yeah, you got to help the D-gens. We're all just D-gens in this, realistically. We're trying to make sense of this crazy game and hoping we can make it add up, make it make sense, and win ourselves a couple bucks to take our families on vacation, pay off our mortgage maybe. That's about all we're going to be doing. Well, unless you win it. If you win Best Ball Mania, probably not going to work the next day. I'll tell you that much. Yeah, probably. And there goes Brock Bowers, 1-2 turn, Genty and Bowers. Is this guy in the chat? Bobby Ray-Bans, are you in the chat just to troll me? That's kind of funny. And then all that chat, and he goes Genty Bowers. That we couldn't have planned that any better than that. But yeah, they could score more points, sure. But I mean, I like, that's not all going to go to Bowers. That's not all going to go to Genty. I just don't think it makes any sense. I still just do not think it makes any sense in the world. I really, really don't. I'm going to go with Christian McCaffrey here. I've been saying I want like 6%. I'm at 3% right now. I don't want anything crazy because it's hard to trust Christian McCaffrey. It's even worse. It's even harder to trust the coach speak around Christian McCaffrey. So them saying he's healthy means absolutely nothing to me, with what happened last year. But I do want enough where I don't want to be just completely left behind on Christian McCaffrey. It's still Christian McCaffrey. It's still the 49ers offense. It's still Kyle Shanahan. So if he is healthy, I want to have enough where I'm not just left in the dust, but I don't want it to, kill my portfolio either. So like 20% Christian McCaffrey, that's pretty risky. But if I have 6%, I can stomach that even if he's a 0 all season. Amon-Ra should go beside CD. Definitely closer, and he did last year, right? So give me Amon-Ra over Puka. Honestly, I know that might be a hot take, but I mean, I take Puka over Amon-Ra just because I want to balance out my portfolio and I do want some Puka shares. But like in a vacuum, gun to my head, if I had to pick one of them, give me Amon-Ra for sure. 6 more subs to 500. Yeah, we're almost there. We're almost there. If you like the content, if you're new, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. If you like the content, I definitely do things a little bit differently. I don't think anyone can argue that around here. So you get a different take on things. And I'd like to think that I back it up with some substance. It's not just opinion-based nonsense, right? So there you go. I'm not sure what's funny, but yeah, I'm trying to pay off my girlfriend. Appreciate that. I'm trying. Gamelstein, good to see you, man. Appreciate you coming in. They're saying Ayuk progressing well makes me want to out on him. Yeah, no, fair enough. Again, the coach speak, you can't trust it. You really, really can't. So, yeah, we'll see. But supposedly doctors are saying that CMC is healthy, so that's encouraging. But Either way, it's just, yeah, it's hard to trust the 49ers at this point. It really is. It really is. Baltimore versus Rams in the Super Bowl. I don't hate that take at all. I don't hate that take at all. I don't. That'd be interesting. That'd be interesting. I give the Rams a good chance of winning that game, that's for sure. But that's not crazy. Yeah, I wouldn't be happy either if I'm Hendrickson, but like I'm trying to see it from both sides on this one. Cuz if you're the Bengals, like the idea with the Bengals was that was the last that was the last contract that they were going to give him. They just redid him 2 years ago, right? And then like the year after, sure, he had a great season, and then he's like, trade me, right? Like demands a trade. Obviously, he probably asked for a raise. They said, "What? We just gave you a raise. Like, what are you talking about?" And then he said, "Oh, okay, yeah." Comes back, plays really, really well again. I get it. And then he comes out again and says, "Give me more money, give me more. I need more." And it's like, at some point, like you can't just keep asking for everything and anything. Like that's not really how this works. Geez, sneeze there. Almost lost the nose. We're gonna take Brees Hall here. I know he falls more, and I'd rather like even three picks of ADP value is fine for me. But with Christian McCaffrey, I definitely want to get in another anchor like Brees Hall. So let's do that. So yeah, like they just redid him. So you can't just like keep asking for more. And he's 31 years old now. So that's where I'm getting at. Like that was supposed to be the last contract for him, which he still has, I believe, 2 more seasons, or just no, it's just one, I think. One more year on the contract. I think they will get something done. I still think they'll get something done. But looking at it from the Bengals side, and another layer of that is the Bengals don't fuck around. Like you want to ask to be traded, like we don't give a shit. We'll let you retire, Carson Palmer. Like we're not going to bend to that kind of nonsense. Let's just take Josh Allen and again raise our floor of our quarterback room. I want to do certain things when I take a Christian McCaffrey, and I know I'm taking some risk there. I want to even out my other, or raise the floor of my other positions if I can. So Josh Allen's going to do that. Brees Hall help out. So let's go down that road. So yeah, the Bengals are not the franchise to try to like strong arm. And like that's not me being a fan. I don't think sometimes it's a good thing. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes it can be very detrimental. Sometimes it's warranted. Like, they do pay players realistically. Like if you look back through the history, I was listening to the radio today and they were talking about like Willie Anderson back in the day got paid, Chad Ochocinco, or, the artist formerly known as Chad Johnson, getting paid, right? They actually do. It just takes time. And it like, I don't like the timeline either. It costs them tons of money. We have the highest paid non-quarterback in the league under our roof right now. So Jamar Chase got paid. T. Higgins, we actually got a huge discount on T. Higgins somehow, in my opinion. So I'll take that. But so I'm trying to see it from both sides. But in my opinion, I think just give him a raise. Like he's earned it. So what are we even really talking about? Like you shouldn't just continue. Like if guys are not playing up to their contract, you're gonna either cut them, release them, right? You're gonna ask them to take a pay cut, right? But when they play above their contract, you're hesitant to give them a raise. Like if they already earned it for your franchise too, like he's led the league in sacks the last 2 seasons in a row for the Bengals. And the defense was a gigantic piece of shit last year. And somehow he had 17 and a half sacks. Like he's earned it for your team, for your franchise. So give him Give him a fucking bag. Like, give him some money. Help him out. Give him a raise. Not help him out like he's broke and hurting over here, obviously, but like he's earned it for your team. So that's where I stand with the Bengals thing and the Trey Hendrickson thing. Like, make him happy. Give him a bit of a raise because he's earned it, and just make everybody happy. Like, you got to keep your employees happy, and that's what these guys are at the end of the day, right? So bump him up a little bit, give him like another year, give him a 1 year extension on his current 1 year. So two years under contract total, bump up that AAV, give him a little bit more guaranteed money, make him happy. And then, everybody's good to go for the season, and it makes your team better. So that's kind of where I'm at. I do see both sides of it though. Where, you can't just keep saying you're not happy. And at some point, either you do have to be happy or we need to move on from you. So it's an interesting one. It's an interesting one. I think they get something done. I really do. I think they get something done, probably add a year, add some more money. Everybody's happy. Yeah, I know I was up. I just had to sneeze there. Bills versus any NFC North team is my Super Bowl guess. That's fair. That's fair. I don't know which NFC team though. Well, you narrowed it down to 4. Bengals are also the worst run organization in sports. One of, yeah, I mean, not really. Like, they get a bit of a bad rap. It's more of a timing thing and a timeline thing. Like, you could say the same thing for like the Saints if you wanted to. You can make a case for them. You can make a case for the Dallas Cowboys. Like, we can make a case for a lot of franchises. So yeah, I mean, they definitely, it's iffy for sure. I'll say that. I would like them to make some different decisions sometimes, but here we are. Don't really like this spot. I'm going to get a little bit unique and bring in Chuba. Just a little bit unique there. Definitely getting a little bit different with this team already, which I want to do. I'm falling behind at wide receiver, not like on purpose, but I know I'm doing it. And that's okay. I want to get my Chuba up to like 6 to 8%, especially when I can get him out of a slight discount. And I think I can catch up at wide receiver if the player falls to me that I like right here. It won't be Sam Laporta. I don't want to double stack, Detroit without bringing in Jared Goff. And I'm most certainly not going to take, a 10th round pick or whatever it is. 10th, 11th round pick on a quarterback when I have Josh Allen, especially when I know I'm falling behind at wide receiver. I didn't really plan on Debo being there. But I'm going to stick to my guns and take Jaden Reed that plays off the Detroit. And then I've also got, NFC with San Francisco. The Jets with the Bills make sense. So trying to figure out at least some division stacking here with the NFC North and the AFC East here. So let's do that. Absolutely. That's exactly what maybe I didn't do a very good job explaining, but yeah, exactly. With Allen and Amon-Ra, you got those high floors and high ceilings. You can get a little bit different. You can get a little bit unique, especially with a Christian McCaffrey, where I'm not all the way comfortable and confident in CMC. So bringing in a Breece Hall and Chuba Hubbard, both at 4.4 pick discounts, I think that makes sense. I think that feels right. Makes sense. That's kind of what I want to do. But I also, again, I don't want to double stack Detroit because I'm not taking Goff. There's just no way that I'm taking Goff. So like, I won't want to pick another quarterback until I don't know, 14th, 15th, after the 10th round for sure, maybe 12th, we'll see. But because I'm going to have to catch up at wide receiver. I know that. So it is what it is. Man, my work phone, once it gets to 100%, it keeps unplugging and plugging back in. It's really annoying. Just beeping away over there. It drives me nuts. I can't quit Chuba in the mid to late 5th round. Yeah, I would agree with that. Like anytime I can get Chuba at a discount now, I'm probably going to click it unless it makes absolutely no sense. I probably won't. I definitely won't bring him up. I definitely will not, reach. It's even tough to take him kind of at ADP. Like in a vacuum, give me Kenny Walker over him. And then, Hampton, but give me Chuba over Mixon every time. I've been saying that for a month, the whole draft season so far. Like Mixon still being there is mind boggling to me, but whatever. And even like Najee for me, like I'm super high on Najee personally this year. I really don't think that the Chargers realistically can even take the draft capital to, sink it into a running back if they want to get to where they want to go. I don't think it makes any sense. I don't think it's going to help their playoff chances. I don't think it's going to help their win-loss record if they draft a first, second round running back. Third round, maybe, but I still think that there's other things you can do in the draft to help your team. They need a wide receiver. They could always use offensive line. They need some defensive back help for sure. They need some defensive line. They need some pass rushers. They need some other stuff where it just doesn't make sense to sink any real draft capital into running back. Sure, they could bring someone in the, fourth, not even fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh round. Sure. But realistically, I think they could go into the season with what they have and be relatively comfortable. Like Hassan Haskins, Kamani Vidal, and Najee Harris, right? And then maybe a 6th round, whatever rookie, somebody. It's a good class. So someone in the 6th round wouldn't be that horrible. And I think it could work. Like even like a Khalil Mullings that's from Michigan, Donovan Edwards, who's from Michigan, right? Like someone like that knows the system he's coming into. Well, maybe he doesn't because it's Greg Roman's system. It's not necessarily, Harbaugh's system. I definitely would have taken Shakir probably, but that's not the end of the world. I guess it's like I gamble on Matthew Golden here. I'm not taking Ayuk with McCaffrey, especially like two potentially hurt San Francisco 49ers. I don't think that makes any sense in the world on this build. And I'm not going, I basically can't go running back. So let's go Matthew Golden and hope that I'm kind of wrong. Mind you, I'm still at only 3%. I'm not a huge Matthew Golden believer personally. I mean, it's quite landing spot dependent and draft capital, but even the draft capital doesn't have me that excited. Even if he does go in the first, if it's not the a correct landing spot, like if he goes to the Cardinals in the first, which I think is absolutely on the table, like, yeah, first round draft capital, 16th overall, wonderful. But Kyler Murray's still your quarterback. There's still McBride. There's still Marvin Harrison. There's still the running backs, right? I don't think that would really work. Like it makes sense in real life, but it's really going to hurt his fantasy value, obviously. So let's bring in Golden and just kind of cross our fingers on that one, because I do need to throw some volume at it. And then it's Travis Hunter. That's an easy click here. That's really who I wanted to fall back to me. I was thinking about just taking him at 82 here. But I had a pretty reasonable, reason to think that he would fall. So let's bring in Hunter. That makes me feel a lot better about my wide receiver room. I still think I need to catch up with some high floor quality veterans, but we'll see if we can get there. We should be able to get there. Yeah, if you're just popping in, you see the ticker at the bottom, 494 subscribers. We're 6 away from a 500 subscriber goal, 500 subscribers before the NFL draft, which is in 22 days, I believe. we'll do a 12-hour live stream. So I'm hoping to get that checked off on the Saturday before the draft. And that would be after I do my mock draft episode. So we can chat about that. I think that would be a fun talking point for the 12 hours, maybe obviously not the entire 12 hours, but throughout the stream, we could bring that up with guests and see if they watched it, if they liked it, whatever, if they agreed, disagreed, whatever. Be a fun talking point. So again, the Saturday before the NFL draft. So what is that? 4 days, 5 days before the NFL draft would be ideal. But we got to get to, 6 more subscribers. Should be quite doable. And if you like the content, hit the like button as well. Helps me out. Keeps me motivated for doing this. This is the 30th live stream in the big board season. So that's a lot, I think. It's a lot of streams. I think PPR Tyler is probably the only one, and BBG, since he ripped his ACL. He's live right now. So he's done a little bit more than me, probably. He's got a lot more time on his hands than I do. And PPR Tyler's doing the 100 straight days of streaming. So shout out to those boys. They'll be on the 12-hour for sure. But again, we got to get there. I'm confident we will. So let's just hit it and make it happen. We'll take a look at Kelly's team in the 9 spot, Champ X3, King of QC. Is King QC in the chat? If you're in the chat, let me know. I don't know what your YouTube handle is versus your Underdog handle. I don't think it's the same. So if you're in the chat, maybe you're just lurking, maybe you're just drafting and you fell into it. I don't know, but let me know if you want your team reviewed and we can take a look at it once we're done. I saw Champ X3 was doing something super interesting, so I want to take a look at that team for sure. Steven Hines, what's your exposure to Bo Nix? Because you've drafted Bo Nix pretty much every time we draft together. So are you a Denver fan also? Number two-part question. Are you a Denver fan? And what's your exposure to Bo Nix? I'm really curious about those 2 questions. King QC is in the chat, and Auto Hurts. You could play out of that, actually. You could definitely play out of that. That's unfortunate, though. I mean, not ideal. I'm sure that's not what you really wanted to do. But, I mean, yeah, Roma Dunze would have been nice. Even DK to pair up Pittsburgh, Cincy. I've done that a few times. But you could play out of that. It's not the end of the world. But we'll take a look at the squads. What do we want to do here? Let's do, I'm not going Goff. I don't particularly care how far he falls. Let's bring in, talking about high floor kind of veteran wide receivers, let's do Rashad Bateman. I think makes a lot of sense with this build. Let's go that route. Big time Bo. Love what's going on there. I actually really like what's going on with the Broncos as well. I think it's very, very live that the Broncos could win that division. I really do, over the Chiefs. I really, really think that the Broncos could win the AFC West. Is it the West? Yeah. Yeah, the AFC West this year. I really do. I really, really do. They don't have a crazy amount of needs in the draft beyond running back. So defense is still good. They've got enough draft capital. Yeah, they're going to be, I think they're going to be a good team this year. I really do. It's got to be the Chargers then. I'm big on Chiefs not winning AFC West, but my horse I'm riding is not Denver. It's got to be the Chargers then. Let's go ahead and grab Coleman here. Makes sense. We can be pretty well completely caught up at wide receiver now, which feels nice. So let's do that. And then, yeah, that it really plays with the Golden and Hunter picks, I think, with Amon-Ra, especially like, let's just say Amon-Ra is my high floor, steady in my lineup every week. You could say that Jaden Reed plays pretty well into that as well. He's pretty close to it. Then I have my high upside rookies, and then my, gonna show up in my lineup veteran wide receivers, and then it keeps the door open where I can take some more rookie wide receivers later in the draft. So I like this kind of texture of wide receiver room. I think it makes a lot of sense. I'm happy with my running back room too. So yeah, I like the way that this team is kind of building out so far. So far, so good. Bolt up. Yeah, I figured it has to be the Chargers. They got to fix that. Like the back end of that defense needs a lot of help. They need a pass rusher. They could use an interior defensive lineman. The offensive line is just ridiculous. And that's why I'm so high on Najee, is the offensive line and the coaching staff. They could probably use a wide receiver, but they can get it all. Don't get me wrong. The Chargers could be it. Peyton Deal. Yeah, the Chargers could be it. I would be looking at betting the Chiefs to not win. It's just, who do you think it is? And for me, it's the Broncos. I like the Broncos a lot. I'm pretty high on Bo Nix myself. Evan Ingram, I do a fair amount of. Mims, I'll take sporadically. Definitely if you can pair him up with Bo Nix and Evan Ingram, right? Yeah. But as a team, like the defense is really good for the Broncos. The defense, obviously, they led the league in sacks last year, and in theory, they could be better. So, yikes! If Riley Moss stays healthy for the back end of that defense in Denver, that'd be really helpful. They could probably draft another corner, but it's not super, like, it won't be in the first round that they draft a corner. It's just, it doesn't make sense for where they pick. But a second round corner can make a lot of sense. Obviously, running backs a pretty high need on the Broncos, but the needs are very limited there. Very, very limited. So that's kind of what I look at when I'm kind of picking my division winners, and if I'm betting early. The thing that makes me not as concerned about a Bo Nix regression is Sean Payton. That's something that makes me less concerned, because Sean Payton is just such a good coach and such a good schemer and play caller, that I think he can, insulate Bo Nix, kind of exactly what he did for him as a rookie. And then, even more so as a second year, plus the amount of experience that Bo Nix has under his belt, all of the college starts that he has just a ton of experience. I think it's less likely that he regresses than someone like, I don't really see any of these. Like, I don't think that Jaden Daniels regresses. I don't, for similar reasons I just said about Bo Nix. Let's go Kincaid here. I think that just is exactly what I wanted, and it is. So there we go. But I don't really see any of these second year quarterbacks regressing personally. I think it could be the year the Chiefs fall out first in the AFC West as well. That's coming from a Chiefs fan. So yeah, they have a bunch of needs as well. The Chiefs, they can shore it up, and it's still the Chiefs. So it's not, I don't know. I don't know if I'd bet it. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what the odds look like, and we'll see what they do. These other teams, the Chargers, the Broncos, we'll see what they do in the draft, and the Chiefs for that matter. We'll see what they do in the draft. And then, I'll kind of take it from there. I do a bet every year where I bet on the division winners of every division, all 8 division winners. And I parlay it all together, and I bet a fairly substantial amount of money. I've done pretty well with that bet. I won like 10 A bunch of years ago now, I won about 10K, and that was fun. And it went all the way until literally the last week 17, where it was only 17 games. We're going to go with, what do I want to do? We're going to go with Trey Benson. Plays off the San Francisco, more of the NFC. I have a lot of Trey Benson. I kind of want to pump the brakes. And Jaden Higgins, I'm at 21%. If I'm being honest, I didn't love Jaden Higgins' tape. I really didn't. It was some of the data that came out after the fact that really pushed me towards Higgins and his 40 at the combine. I did not think he was that fast. So I do want to slow down on Higgins personally. Obviously, his reception perception came out, and that is not doing him any favors. Plus, if I didn't like the tape, which I really didn't, I didn't love it. I liked Jalen Knowles' tape better. But the the athletic profile at the combine was very encouraging. And some of the data metrics that I saw, made me take another look at Higgins. Not that I regret having as much as I do, because my average ADP is 162. His ADP now is 142. So I'm getting 20 picks of value at 21% Higgins. Again, if we're trying to just do a cost analysis, I think I'm printing money at that point. So yeah, we'll leave it there. We will leave it there. I probably would have went with Trevor Lawrence if he had still been on the board. So that is annoying, but I'm going to have to take a second quarterback at some point. I think Justin Herbert with improved everything is a force. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Justin Herbert gets a pass from a lot of people, a lot of unjust love to Justin Herbert. Like, what has he really done, honestly? And his stat profile isn't even that incredible. He had that one season that was, amazing, but other than that, he just gets a free pass from a lot of people. I'm not entirely sure why, if I'm being honest. I like Justin Herbert, but people act like he's some sort of perennial Pro Bowler and, MVP candidate, and just drags his team into the playoffs and stuff like that. So, I mean, I like Justin Herbert. He's a tough kid. He's a good football player. Don't get me wrong. It's just he gets a lot of free pass, unjust love that, I'm not really sure why or if it's deserved. 50-50 for the Chiefs. Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. I want to see where they go. But yeah, the bet was a few years ago. It was a good time. Every game was extremely important on that bet. So it was really cool. There's 2 games on a Thursday or something like that in week 17, the year that bet was a thing, the last week. So technically it still had a chance to win, but it really didn't to me. And I wasn't about to essentially bet $10,000 on this outcome happening. I think it was the Packers winning the division, but I had the Vikings to win the division, I believe is what it was. And it didn't go down that way, obviously, but it was a good bet, I thought. And it made, I won over 10 grand. So that was sweet. I'm going to bring in Dylan Sampson. Only 3%. That does not feel very good. And we're seeing Jaden Higgins slip a little bit, which I think is fair. I think it's fair. I think my 162 is probably where he actually kind of belongs. Yeah. Yeah. I actually think that might kind of even out on me, which is fine, but I don't think I'm going to be clicking Jaden Higgins a crazy amount more at all as we get closer to the draft. I'm just going to go back to my original take of like, the tape wasn't that good. It really wasn't, in my opinion. But there were some other metrics that did make sense and make me draft him. And I'm fine with it. I'm not regretting it over here, that's for sure. Probably another rookie at some point in my running back room. I'm going to stop at 2 quarterbacks for sure. Fuck. I wanted Sam Darnold a lot. I guess he has Cooper Kupp. I should have just taken Sam Darnold. Yikes. Okay, well, then it's Bryce Young. Let's just take the little bit of ADP value. He's kind of the last one. I wanted Sam Darnold there. And then, he's there with Chuba. I'm not leaning into the Carolina Panthers side of my quarterback room anyways. It's obviously going to be the Buffalo side with my double stack already. And I'm probably going to bring in Jatavian Sanders. If you want to snipe me on him, go nuts. And then I have like a low owned stack with Bryce Young of the running back and tight end. But that's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to do the old classic, bring in Sam Darnold, backstack him with one of the tight ends and Marquez Valdez-Scantling. I do a lot of that when I kind of box myself out of quarterback situations. And then you can still get a pretty reasonable double stack, in my opinion, a spike week guy and MBS. And then what I think will be a relatively high floor, right at, average 6 points roughly for your tight end with Noah Fant or AJ Barner for that matter. But I prefer Noah Fant personally. Josh Palmer, I was kind of hoping would fall to me or still be on the board for me. Goes a few picks ahead of ADP, which is fine. I would have taken him for the triple stack on the Buffalo side, but that's all right. Not the end of the world. Not the end of the world. It's a lot easier to, not get your second quarterback when you have Josh Allen. Makes it a lot easier. This is definitely an odd team. I've been doing a lot of this, though. This is, again, like I've been saying it since, I don't know, since the combine, essentially. I want to make sure I'm getting unique to my own portfolio and evening out some exposures like a Dylan Sampson. He's met twice with the Cowboys. So that's another thing that we'll dig into. I don't like to give away too much of this stuff, but it's okay if it's not a first round. For my mock draft, I only do the first round. So I guess I can give away these nuggets. I was on, in the chat on Huhaim's show earlier today. The offensive coordinator for the Kansas State, Wildcats, the old offensive coordinator, is now the offensive line coach for the Cowboys. So there's a very nice link for DJ Giddens to be drafted by the Cowboys. Dylan Sampson has met twice with the Cowboys, brought in for a visit, met at the combine, and that's a lucrative landing spot for running back. So Dylan Sampson, I want to get up a little bit. I just do anyways. Like I'd like to be at about 8% roughly. I'm only 3-4% right now. So I want to get that up. Especially if he's potentially linked to the Cowboys. King of QC, I don't know if I said that before you picked DJ Giddens, but I mean, I'm almost 20% Giddens anyways, and I'm sure everybody's got their shares. So that he's kind of linked to the Cowboys as well. What do I also have for some small nuggets? Nothing particularly off the top of my head that I want to just give away before the mock draft episode. But nothing else that pertains to like offense realistically. There's some nuggets in there for some defensive players potentially, but that's less fun for what we do here. Let's go Pat Freiermuth. Again, another player I'd like to get a little more exposure to. That's the biggest reason behind that one. Yeah, nothing else offensively that really stands out quite yet. But tune into the mock draft episode. It'll be a really good one. It'll be really fun. And I always like to hear what people think about it. Because I put a lot of work into that one. Put a lot of work into the mock draft, which I might do a little bit of work on after the stream tonight. So hit that like button if you don't mind. Hit the subscribe button if you like the content. Share it with your league mates on the old sleeper machine. Unless you want to keep the intel to yourself, which is fine. I can understand that. Is this guy auto drafting now, potentially? It's going to be one of these rookie running backs. Perfect. Took the guy I would rather not have. So Damian Martinez, 20% right now. I want to be sure that stays over 20%. I really, really do. I mean, I guess if it goes like dips a little bit below, then it's whatever. But I've been saying for a long time, I would like to be done picking running backs at Damian Martinez. And here we are. That's my 6th. I'm done. I'm done at quarterback. One more tight end. And then I get 3 more wide receivers. So that puts me in a good spot. I'm happy about that. Not that I think Ollie Gordon's a bad click, because he's absolutely not. He's really, really not a bad click at all. Like, he ran slow at the combine. Really, he didn't. That's exactly what he was always going to run. So he's perfectly fine where he ran, where he tested at. He's perfectly fine. But I do prefer Damian Martinez over Ollie Gordon, just because I think he can do more in the passing game. I think he's more rounded, and the over 6 yards per carry every year in his college career is extremely encouraging, especially at a place like Oregon State. So you love to see it. Did anybody get out of line? I mean, it's not getting out of line. It was an auto pick for King of QC, so that is what it is. That would be a little interesting. Three straight running backs. 4 straight wide receivers to come out of it. I don't know about that. That's a big break from your wide receiver room when you go 3 straight running backs. Rashee Rice, DK, Juwan Jennings, Burden, Liggett, Adonai Mitchell. That's a tough looking wide receiver room for the 5 spot. Purdy, Love, JJ McCarthy, 4 quarterbacks. I can't get behind that personally. Yeah. 3 quarterbacks inside the 12 rounds. And then you bring in, I don't care if he's falling. Like, it just doesn't make a lot of sense to take Anthony Richardson there for me. Especially when there's a guy like Jalen Noel on the board and you need wide receiver. But he's got goat horns, so he's won a battle royale. So good on him. Nothing else too crazy. We've got 1, 2, 3 teams to look over after the fact. I'm interested to look at everyone, obviously, but yeah, this could get fun. Appreciate that. I do put a lot of work in everything I do, actually. Thanks, Hugh Hames. Appreciate that, man. Appreciate that. Hopefully, if you get some value out of it, that's the whole reason I made the channel is I do the work regardless. Might as well share it with the world, and so maybe some other people get some value out of it. Maybe I'm completely wrong. That's always possible. That is always a possibility. 4 more picks, 1 tight end, 3 wide receivers. This guy needs a tight end. These 2 could pick a third each. Kelly could pick a third. Could stop at 2 with Njoku and Andrews, but probably a third. Russell Wilson goes in the 17th. Interesting. Wandale. Is this the neighbors team? Yeah. Eckler goes. Do I just take Sanders here? Probably. This guy's double stacking. Let's just do it. Let's just do it and get Sanders. Kind of be sure about it. Then I'm done at tight end. So 3 straight wide receivers to finish it up. I have room to take some rookies. I can kind of just take whatever I want as far as the wide receiver room is concerned. Whatever makes sense. I'm not going to take Trey Tucker. I'm just not taking him. I have a little too much. I don't want any more than 13%. I'm at 13%. I'd like to get that down at or below 10%, really. Especially if he's not stacked with Geno. If he's stacked with Geno Smith, sure. But I just don't think it makes sense to have that much of a guy like Trey Tucker. Like MVS, I have 6%. Yoshi Boss, I have 10%. That'll fall under 10, get down to 8, something like that. Restrepo, I'm at 23, and I'm okay with that, but I probably won't add more. Maybe I'm okay with being at 20% Restrepo. I think he's too good to not too good to fail, but I just think that the 40 time means realistically nothing, especially if he did hurt something. He probably just shouldn't have ran it, but it is what it is. I'm going to take Kyle Williams, though. Everybody knows he's my guy. I'm going to get him at in the 18th round. And it works for what I'm doing here. I really hope Kyle Williams slips into the 2nd round. It's more likely 3rd round, which is still very nice draft capital for a wide receiver, especially if the landing spot is good. But I really hope he slips into the 2nd. Speaking of which, maybe we'll do that on stream, actually. Let's see. There it is. Let's take a quick peek. I'm looking at, maybe we'll take a quick look at Daniel Jeremiah's top 50 after we finish up in this draft. Because to me, that is a very, very important ranking. Very important. Very. It's much like I pay more attention to Daniel Jeremiah's top 50 than his mock drafts. Like his mock drafts, he just like in this scenario, in this, in this instance, if this happens, then this happens. Like he's not really like I think I'd be interested to see like Daniel Jeremiah if he puts out. And realistically, I don't think he would do it unless you like know him personally or something like that. And it's like, DJ, who do you actually think is going to go to these landing spots? Like, who do you really think is their pick? I don't think he does that because regardless, it's going to do numbers. He's going to get clicks, right? No matter what Daniel Jeremiah puts out, it's going to get clicks. It's going to get views. It's going to do numbers. People on their YouTube channels do entire episodes, big streams, Bengal, who we can talk about Bengal, whatever. I think even the Flock, fantasy Flock guy, like Mason, like I think they do reactions to his mock draft. So like no matter what he does, it's going to do numbers. So I don't think that he's like, this is who I think they're going to actually pick. He just puts out a bunch and he does like 6 of them. But his top 50 is really what you want to pay attention to. So if a guy's not in DJ's top 50, there's basically a 0% he's going in the first round. Not even like literally, there's a 0% that player, that person, whatever, is going to go in the first round if they're not in Daniel Jeremiah's top 50. So it's very, very, very important to see how he has guys ranked, at least I think. And obviously teams can manipulate their own board, which they're going to do. They're going to manipulate their own board to make guys fit where they want them. So they'll say like, oh, we took the best player available, but maybe the best player available is a quarterback and you have Patrick Mahomes on your team. You're not taking a quarterback, right? So you can manipulate your board and justify it any way you like. But again, I just like the Daniel Jeremiah top 50 is exceptionally, exceptionally important. DJ is awesome, although I miss Mike Mayock. I like Mike Mayock because he kind of did that. Like he made one mock draft just like I do. And it was who he actually thought would go in these certain places. So I do miss Mike Mayock too. Do I get the beast? I'm not sure what that means. What's the beast? I don't know what that is. Do I get the beast? I don't know what the beast is. So no, I don't. But what is it? Should I get it? Who do I want to take with my last 2 wide receiver clicks? That's the more important question here. Tutu Atwell, expected to see increased snaps unless he gets replaced in the draft, which could happen. Noah Fant goes to the non-Darnold drafter. He's still got, I didn't even take him. Just singles tack with Cup. Okay. That's okay, I guess. Let's do, I'm super confident personally in Parker Washington. 22%, 18% overall. Give me Parker Washington. And then, this guy could take MVS here, I guess. Though he needs the running back help, I think, but you never know what he'll do. Maybe MVS is a click here. It does make sense with my, San Francisco, Arizona. Um, 18% Savion Williams. It's more than enough. I'm probably going to go off the board here. I am going to take a rookie. And it's a guy that I think could be like the Puka Nacua of this year's draft. And he could very well go to the LA Rams because they do need a player like this. It's Nick Nash. Should have been the Biletnikoff winner last year over Travis Hunter. He was a Triple Crown winner. How do you win the Triple Crown in college and not win the Biletnikoff? I don't know. Big slot guy. People are going to say he ran slow, but again, it's fine. He ran a 4.5. He's fine. He could fit in really, really nicely with the Rams, and he actually could be, I think he could be the not necessarily Amon-Ra St. Brown, but you could say that Amon-Ra St. Brown or Puka Nacua of this year's draft, where he goes like in the 4th round and just has a really, really nice landing spot. The Bengals brought him in, and he actually really would fit in with the Bengals as a big slot. We do need a slot receiver. Yoshi Voss isn't really that. He's not really a slot guy at all. And Nick Nash is. So that was my click. I want to be just like 4 to 6%. I'm at 4% right now. Nothing crazy, just enough to, I don't think he's going to be a zero. Former quarterback, former dual threat quarterback, which I like, understands how to get open, understands what quarterbacks are looking for, right? I think Nick Nash is getting like less than zero buzz, and there should be some. Like, he's probably a 4th-round pick, most likely. Even if he's a 5th-round pick, what's the difference? So I don't know. I want a little bit of Nick Nash. I have probably 2-3 shares of Devontae Walker, but no, that wasn't it. The Beast is a very comprehensive rookie guide done by one guy. It's like 1,000 players every year. Dane Brugler, I like for sure. No, is it free? If it's free, it's for me. If it costs money, then I'm good. Like, I do enough on my own, I think. Like, I'm not one to pay for any fantasy content personally. Yeah, if it's not free, I'm good on that. Like, I really don't think I need it, if I'm being honest. Like, if there's guys there's not very many like rookies that I don't know their name or something about them. I haven't watched tape on. I couldn't, regurgitate their stat profile or their athletic profile or something like that. So I'm not paying. Like, I do like Dane Brugler for sure. I like his opinion. Absolutely. I follow him on Twitter, but I'm not going to pay for, a huge rookie guide. Like, if I were digging in like I do on the offensive side, on the defensive side, I do some work after the fact as far as that's concerned, but it's after the draft and after the fact. Like, I want to know where they're at and who they are and if they have a chance to start. So some offensive linemen and stuff like that. I'll look into some defensive backs, and especially when I'm putting together like bets, large bets, like my division winner bet, like I put a lot into that. And we could talk about that on an episode, towards the end of the summer, which maybe we'll do because it's fun content, I think, and people can tail if they want. But yeah. Let's go over this teams, and then we'll take a look at the top 50 at DJ's top 50. We'll take a look at that because that's an interesting look. Josh Allen, Bryce Young, Christian McCaffrey, Breece Hall, Chuba Hubbard, Trey Benson, Dylan Sampson, and Damian Martinez. I like all this. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jaden Reed, Matthew Golden, Travis Hunter, Rashad Bateman, Keon Coleman, Kyle Williams, Parker Washington, and Nick Nash. I quite like this. It's pretty thin. It is pretty thin. There's a lot of question marks. Obviously, like, I knew that when I take 3 running backs and a quarterback inside the first 5 rounds, but you throw enough volume at it. I have some high upside rookies, probably the technically the first 2 of the top 3 drafted wide receivers, most likely, attached to a good offense, stacked with my quarterback and a good offense. I believe in Parker Washington. I believe in Kyle Williams, and Nick Nash is a bit of a wild card. Dalton Kincaid, Pat Freiermuth, and Jatavian Sanders. That definitely works. So, yeah, not a bad squad. Unique to me. I dig it. King of QC in the 1 spot. We got Jalen Hurts and Joe Burrow. You can't draft another one. So it's good that you didn't, obviously. Bucky Irvin, Travis Etienne, Cam Scatterbu, Rashad White, DJ Giddens, Will Shipley, Jaden Blue. I like this room a lot. That definitely works. I'm not a fan of Etienne personally. I'm not a fan of Shipley personally, but these all work. And, I like the high upside rookies. I like Bucky. This works. Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, double stacked with the quarterback. And that's it. And I like that. George Pickens plays with the Cincinnati. Ricky Pearsall, Stephon Diggs, Keenan Allen, and Cedric Tillman. I probably throw another wide receiver at that from your running back room personally. Like, Will Shipley is not exactly necessary. You bring in an 8th wide receiver, I'd probably rather go down that road. I mean, you do have the two Tampa Bay. I don't know. That's tough. That's really tough. I don't know. Hindsight's going to be 2020 on this one. Like, there's not a lot you can really do. I don't mind the decision to go with 7 running backs. This is a little thin to me. This is a little concerning, but I don't know where you can't take away from your tight end room either. So you just needed a 21st round realistically. It is what it is. Goddard pairs up, Schultz and Higbee. That's enough. That works for me. I mean, you just need another round of you need another pick to throw in another wide receiver, but we only get 20. Champ X3, we got Jaden Daniels and Bo Nix. I like that. Saquon Barkley, David Montgomery, Bayshall Tootin, Jerome Ford, RJ Harvey, and Justice Hill. I'm more than okay with that. 2693. I like that. That works for me. Terry McLaurin, Cortland Sutton, Jacoby Myers, Jalen McMillan, Jalen Coker, Pop Douglas, Yoshi Voss, Trey Tucker, Devon Vele. We got George Kittle, Evan Ingram, and Bretton Strange. Nice squad. This might be one of the better squads that I've seen for you. I like this one a lot. No rookie wide receivers, but not necessary at all. I like all of these wide receivers. Realistically, they're all perfectly fine. Double stacked your Denver, triple stacked your Denver, single stacked Washington, which is fine. Yeah, nice squad. I like it. Let's take a look at Kelly's. We've got Lamar Jackson and Tua. I like that. I've done this a bunch too. Just take the 2 of them, leave it there, fill out the rest of your roster. I like stopping at 2 there. Especially we got Mark Andrews. If this is Jonnu, I'm actually okay with it, but we'll see what else you did. Mark Andrews and Njoku, that's close, super fringe to just go with 2 or draft in a third. It kind of opens the door for either one, and I'm okay with either way. So that works okay for me. Devon Achane, Jalen Warren, Tony Pollard, J.K. Dobbins, Braylon Allen, Austin Eckler, and Raheem Mostert. I'm not really drafting Mostert. Doesn't mean it's a bad pick. I'm not drafting J.K. Dobbins, but, almost 20 rounds or 20 picks of ADP value feels pretty nice. Eckler at a big value is nice. This will work for me. The top 3 I'm perfectly happy with. And then a guy like, Braylon Allen, Eckler can show up now and again in the lineup. This will work. Brian Thomas, Mike Evans, Jalen Waddle, Deebo Samuel, Marvin Mims, Adam Thielen, Jalen Knoll, Xavier Restrepo, and Nick Westbrook-Akine. Triple stack Miami. I don't mind that. Single with Andrews. I don't hate that at all. You don't have to force anything with Andrews. You can take him double stack, single stack, whatever. That'll definitely work. I like this team as well. I like the team as well. Yeah. Everybody had a good draft today, realistically. So that's it for there. Let's pull up let's take a quick peek at just trying to get my windows straight over here. Let's take a peek at Daniel Jeremiah's top 50 quick, and then we'll get out of here. All right. Let's zoom in. This just came out earlier today. So I wanted to look at it and happy to do it on stream so we can kind of get a reaction. So it's 4.0. That's fine. Like, I'm happier with the top 50 different versions. They don't change a crazy amount. But it's just good to know where we're at. So we're at 4.0. Like I said, released earlier today. He's got Abdul Carter as his number 1. I agree with that. I definitely agree with that. I think best player on the board, I think it's Abdul Carter. So I think he goes second overall to the Browns, most likely. So yeah, I don't mind that. Travis Hunter 2. I agree with that. Definitely agree with that. And I think he probably goes third overall. Genty as the third. I'm okay with that. Mason Graham as 4. Okay. Okay. Jalen Walker, this was an interesting run. He's moved up 2 spots all the way up to number 5. The weird thing with Jalen Walker is he's a tweener. Like he's Nolan Smith, but a little bit smaller. So that's odd. Like he can't fit with every team, which is like, I don't know why you would have him ranked so high. I don't mind Jalen Walker, and I think he definitely goes obviously in the first round and in the top half of the first round, but he's not for everyone. He can't just walk into any defense and fit as an edge rusher. He's built more like an interior, like an inside linebacker. So he can't just fit with any team. He really can't. I do like him as a player. He's the Butkus Award winner, the top linebacker. But I don't know if I agree with this ranking just because he can't walk into any team and fit with that defense. So it's an interesting one with Walker. Tyler Warren, yeah, I'm okay with that. Number 6. Colston Loveland, number 7. I'm not so sure I'd put Colston Loveland that high personally. But okay. Cam Ward's at 8, up 2 spots. Probably the number 1 overall pick, most likely. And I do agree with him being 8th. I'm not sure I agree with Colston Loveland being there. Jihad Campbell, up 3 spots to the 9. Wow, okay. That's a nice boost for Jihad Campbell. I like Campbell a lot. He's definitely my number 1 inside linebacker for sure. Yeah, we'll see where he goes. I have a couple places in mind. Will Campbell drops down to 10. That's interesting to me. I don't have any concerns about Will Campbell personally. I think he can start at left tackle. I think he's the New England Patriots pick. They have to address left tackle, and I think that he's their solution realistically. Jahdae Barron down 3 spots. Why? Because Jihad Campbell? And Cam Ward, I'm okay with the Cam Ward, but Jihad Campbell shouldn't really kick Jahdae Barron down that far. I like Jahdae Barron. It's between him and Will Johnson for number 1 corner, and I think it's actually Will Johnson, but I do potentially think that Jahdae Barron goes before him in the NFL draft. Armand Membu. Some people have, I think betting wise, he's the number 1 tackle off the board as far as the betting markets are concerned. Ranked number 12. Yeah. Amarian Hampton at 13. Hey, okay. Up 1 spot. Will Johnson at 14, down 1. Yeah, okay. I'm all right with that. Nick Imanwari up 4 spots to 15. That's obviously just like hype and buzz, I think. Obviously from crushing the combine. Matthew Golden at 16, down 1 spot. I personally don't agree with that. I really don't. I don't think he's a top 20 player in this draft. Emeka Ibuka stays the same at 17. I'm fine with that. I have Ibuka over Golden pretty comfortably. Ted McMillan down 2 spots to 18. I'm okay with that. You could even put him a little lower for me personally. Shedeur Sanders, there he is, down at 19. I don't think he's worthy of a first round selection. Realistically, I don't. Maybe at the back end of the first, okay, ranked 19th. I don't know. I guess Tyler Booker, I think, is too high, up 3 spots too. I'm not sure how he's rising. I don't think Tyler Booker should be ranked that high. I think there's some other, honestly, give me Gray Zabel just because of the position fluidity that you get out of him. But okay, Mike Green at 21. I'm all right with that. Michael Williams, I think he's too low. I think he should probably pop up this list a little bit. Derek Harmon up 3 spots. Definitely a first rounder. I don't mind that. There's Gray Zabel, unchanged at 24. He's probably a first round pick towards the back end. He could play anywhere on the offensive line, quite literally. So I like that. Donovan Ezeraku. I mean, he had the stat profile for sure. He's a little undersized, but he can work as a stand-up outside linebacker on a 3-4, up 5 spots. I don't know about that. James Pierce down 4 spots. Honestly, give me James Pierce over Ezeraku personally, just as far as the size is concerned. But okay, Shamar Stewart, I personally would have a lot higher than this. Like he literally tested like Myles Garrett, like literally tested very similar to Myles Garrett, and number 1 in history of the RAS score. Not that I'm like an exceptional, RAS score slappy over here, but his position, like his versatility makes him higher on my list personally. I like Shamar Stewart quite a bit. Walter Nolan up 6 spots. He belongs a little bit higher than this even. Oh, no problem, Kelly. Walker is getting a lot of buzz, definitely. Appreciate that. That's the goal, man. Appreciate that. If Hunter and Carter aren't there, Pats have to take linemen. Yeah, absolutely. I don't think they'll be there, and I think they take Campbell. He's favored to go ahead of Campbell Membu. Yeah, I know that. I don't particularly agree with it, but I know betting markets have him ahead. But the 40-year Pats fan, I'd rather have Campbell. I think I agree with that. Zabel going to be a monster. Yeah, he can just play anywhere. He can literally play any position on your offensive line. To what skill level? This remains to be seen as a North Dakota State product, but I think Walter Nolan should be a little bit higher than 28. He's obviously rising, coming up 6 spots, but I think he should be higher than that. Malachi Starks, I don't know why he deserves to fall 4 spots, but I think he should be a little bit higher than 29. Kenneth Grant, interesting, yeah, 30. Kelvin Banks, I think, should be higher than this personally. I think he goes in the top 20. I'll say that. Mason Taylor up 5 spots to 32. A little aggressive. Like going off of DJ's ranks, we're saying that 3 tight ends go in the first round, which is not going to happen. So, yeah. I don't know about that. 32 for Mason Taylor. Luther Burden falls out of the top, 32, the first round, technically. I definitely agree with that. I'm not a big Luther Burden guy. I've made it pretty known on this channel. Down 2 spots. Trevion Henderson, down 1 spot to 34. I'm okay with that. He is a fringe first rounder. We know it. He'll probably go at the top of the second, but maybe in the first round. We'll see. Maxwell Hairston, I might have to look into a little bit more. I don't know a ton about him, if I'm being honest. Down 3 spots, so he was ranked basically as a first-round pick. I'll have to dig into him a little bit more. Jackson Dart, I think, goes in the first round for sure. I just really do. I think he's getting too much buzz. He could go as high as 9 to the Saints, literally. He could go 21st to the Steelers. Teams could trade up, to the the back end of the first round. Teams like the Giants, right, could trade up to the back end of the first round and draft a Jackson Dart. So I think he goes in the first round. That doesn't mean he needs to be ranked higher. But yeah, I don't necessarily prefer Arroyo over Taylor. I actually think that Terrence Ferguson is exceptionally underrated in this class. I really, really like Terrence Ferguson. I don't personally see a crazy amount of difference. I've said this a lot. I don't personally see a crazy amount of difference, and they're almost like clones of each other between Colston Loveland and Terrence Ferguson. So I think he's criminally underrated. I have him ranked higher than both of Taylor and Arroyo personally. The injury red flag on Arroyo is a little daunting. Taylor, gets a bump because of his dad. So I don't know. Honestly, give me Ferguson, if I'm being honest. Harrison is a big size speed guy. I'll have to dig into him because corners are a little bit of a premium this year, and it's a premium position. It's definitely a coveted position to draft. So I'll need to dig into Harrison a little bit more for sure. Josh Simmons tore his ACL, so he's coming back from that. We'll see. Could be a first round pick, left tackle. So they're coveted this year as well. Judkins at 38. I don't mind that. Top end of the second round, most likely. I'm fine with that. Makes sense. He could, no, I mean, maybe be a first round pick, but I would be surprised. I wouldn't be shocked. I'd be surprised. I think Connerly finds his way in the first round. Offensive tackle. He's got a lot of buzz. He's been visiting a lot with teams. I think there's going to be enough competition for a big tackle like Connerly that I think he finds his way into the first round personally. This guy, I saw his stat profile. He has 13 picks in college. Season-ending injury in October. So I'll have to dig more into this guy, Benjamin Morrison, but his stat profile looked really encouraging. He's up 4 spots to 40. I'm going to have to dig more into him, but I liked what I saw on this Benjamin Morrison. Donovan Jackson, the guy, I believe, who replaced Simmons as left tackle for the Ohio State Buckeyes, probably plays guard. So we'll see. Top end of the second, ranked anyways, top 50, down 2 spots, but that's okay. Trey Amos, another big guy. Yeah, big, fast, most likely. I'll have to dig more into him as well. Ran a 4.3. Okay, 6'3", 6'4", 200 pounds, 4.3. Yeah, sign me up for that. Sign me up for that. I don't mind that at all. Arroyo at 43, up 2 spots. I don't know. I'm not going to, it's DJ, so he knows more than me. I don't know. That's a close one. Carson Schweisinger. I believe almost every single NFL team was at his pro day the other day. 32 teams had representation at his pro day. So that's encouraging for him. Up 2 spots to 44. Not a lot of interior or inside linebackers that are really difference makers this year. Jihad Campbell, Schweitzinger. Other than that, it's pretty whatever. Caleb Johnson up 3 spots. I don't mind that. He could potentially be higher. Landon Jackson had some pretty good reps against some pretty prominent tackles, even Will Campbell, and had a really good Senior Bowl. I think he had 2 sacks in the Senior Bowl game. Long, rangy guy. I wouldn't be crazy shocked if Landon Jackson found his way into the first round. I really wouldn't. I wouldn't be shocked. I'd be a little surprised, obviously, given the rank at 46, but I wouldn't be completely blown out of the water. Darius, Alexander, another one of those defensive tackles. We'll see. I don't know a crazy amount about Darius Alexander personally. I might have to dig more into him. Marcus Mbo. Don't know a crazy amount about him. I'll have to dig into him a little bit. Right tackle looks like. We'll have to see what his size looks like. I'll have to dig into him a little bit more at 48. Nick Skirton, I don't know why he was listed at like a 3-4 defensive end, 290 or something like that. He's 250. He's a stand-up outside linebacker, most likely. Edge rusher, could play defensive end, could play a little bit of stand-up outside linebacker or whatever. But he was just listed ridiculous at by Texas A&M for somehow. But I don't mind him. Probably won't be a first rounder, almost for sure. But I really think he could find his way into the second round. He's moving up and almost in the second round. He is in the second round. Sorry. So I think he will, again, not ranked to now being in the second round. I do agree with that. I think he's a second round pick for sure. Azarea Thomas. I don't know much about him at all. Down 8 spots to 50. I don't know anything about him. I'm not even going to make it up. Josh Farmer's out, and that's it. No real surprises. There's nothing really that, stands out. There's some that I don't necessarily agree with, but what do I know? So yeah, that's interesting. We'll see if that. There'll probably be one more version of the top 50, but that's something that I definitely take into account when I build my top 32, my mock draft of all the first round picks. Like if they're not on this list at all, they will not be a first round pick for me, period. And they're almost certainly not a first round pick or worthy of a first round pick. So I take this top 50 very, very seriously. And I think it's honestly the best thing that Daniel Jeremiah does. Harrison could easily be a surprise first round pick like Buffalo. I don't think that'd be a surprise at all. Considering where he's ranked, I got to do a little bit digging for my own to actually say that. But, I don't think it would be a surprise. If he's ranked where he's ranked, then it wouldn't be a surprise realistically. Steven, welcome in. We're just wrapping it up, but we're going to be done for the night. I'm going to be back on Friday, and then we won't have anything for the weekend, this weekend or next weekend. I'm a little bit busy both weekends. It's a buddy's birthday, both weekends. So, yeah, we'll be back Friday night for sure. We'll rip a stream, we'll rip a draft, we'll do some more. I don't know what we'll chat about, but we'll find something, I'm sure. And then we'll keep going from there. So again, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button on your way out if you don't mind. We're 6 away from hitting the goal. So hopefully we can get there in the next little bit. We'll schedule in the 12-hour live stream. And like I always say on Off the Schneid, if you're afraid to be wrong, you'll never be right. Hopefully tonight we're right. And we'll see you guys on Friday night. Have yourselves a good night.